Hey, welcome back to another exciting episode of YOML, a year of magical learning. If you're new here, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. Chris just said today is a special day, and now let him tell you why.
It's a very special day. I actually, this particular book, we're on book number 84 today, and it's a book called Eager, The Surprising Secret Life of Beavers and Why They Matter by the author Ben Goldfarb. And the reason why this is a special day is actually, I don't know if you remember this, but it was about this time when I was writing book 84 and we were talking about it. We were sharing our own thoughts. I was sharing the reflection with you and we talked ad nauseum about, a beaver must dam and, stuff that we'll dive into in a second here. But This is really kind of the genesis of the podcast, starting for what we were doing, because we were like, this is kind of fun just talking about reflections of the books and stuff like that and sharing these things. And behold, when we got to, just a couple of weeks after that, I wrote this one, I think is when we did our first podcast recording and decided to go try this out every single night. So, this book is meaningful in that regard. I don't know about you, but I felt like this was one of the most memorable conversations that we've had in general about a beaver must dam, a painter must paint. And we'll get into all that in a second. But just felt like the next evolution of the compound effect of
this. I think this book tells the story pretty well in terms of our journey.
I agree. So I'm excited to talk about it. So I'm going to share my screen and we'll get into it. The title of this one is A Beaver Must Dam, Let People Live Their Purpose. So if you'd never read this book before, never really thought of a beaver or anything like that, like I swear to you, I was blown away by all the impact that beavers have on our ecosystem and the world that we live, especially around the Pacific Northwest and the Great Plains and California and the West in general. Beavers basically are the reason why, there's droughts going on. From what I understand in this book, after this book, when we took the beavers off the playing field and tried to run our own irrigation and stuff like that, like the beavers just know what they're doing. They know how to keep things going, and they're a vital, important part of the ecosystem of getting water to where it needs to go to, and water storage and water tables and, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I had no idea. I mean, I don't know about you, but did you know anything about beavers, like in general, of how important they are?
I didn't know the impact they made, but I know that beaver, it's close in terms of what you call a hedgehog. So it's very,
it's a rodent.
Not in terms of its type, but it's a characteristic. I mean, it does what it does, and it's relentless in trying to do what it needs to do.
Gotcha. No, you're talking about the fox and the hedgehog. Yeah, beavers definitely have the hedgehog complex down.
Exactly. Yes.
But yeah, personally, I was blown away by learning about beavers in general and the impact they have. I had no idea, honestly. I mean, I'm a big fan of these little tiny rodents now. They're a big friend of ours in general and as humans. And yeah, I don't know. I was pretty blown away by it. But as you can see here in the second paragraph, my co-founder, True, obviously, you have a saying that you say all the time, and you've been saying it all the time
and I will keep saying
forever.
It.
Right. You always say, a painter must paint, right? And I kind of knew what you meant, obviously I know what you mean by a painter must paint, and you say it all the time, but like after reading this book, it just opened my eyes to see it completely a little bit different. Like, these beavers, they have no choice. They must dam. And I don't know why, but these guys, they need a dam. Like, I mean, that's the point, right? Like it's not supposed to make sense to me why they have this innate purpose and drive to go build a dam. And I jokingly wrote in the reflection, like maybe they had their own I Can't Imagine event, where as a species, maybe there was a huge drought or something like that one time where it left them all with no water and a lot of them died. And maybe one beaver was like, guys, if we just really hone our skills to dam these rivers, like, we can make sure that we always have water forever, or whatever. Like, I don't know. And then for whatever reason that took hold, and that's how beavers ended up damming all the time. I have no idea. And I don't really care. I'm just kind of joking. But at the end of the day, that's the power of purpose. So they have this purpose, and I don't know where it came from. I don't know how it develops, but at the end of the day, that purpose, that mission that these beavers are on, they have an impact that resonates far beyond whatever joy they get out of what they do every single day. And the fun part about it is when you start to like open it up into more of a macro level, like these beavers don't do it alone either. Every animal in that ecosystem has a role, whether it's the wolves that are hunting other animals that are drinking too much water, or the fish that are, the salmon that are jumping over the dams and living their purpose, or the trees that are anchoring the sides of the river so like the beavers can do their thing, or providing wood so the beavers can dam. Like everybody has like a purpose. When you start to really back it up and start to see what's going on at a higher level, the purposes all start to overlap each other in this kind of beautiful, harmonious way. And my thought from this entire experiment, when you say a painter must paint, I think we as humans in general, I feel like we get in a lot of trouble a lot of times because for whatever reason, we feel like we should impose our purpose and our will on everybody else. And that's not right. You can't force your purpose on others. Like, no matter how hard you try, it's not going to happen. It's not going to stick. There's no point in trying. Your purpose is your own purpose. Our goal, I feel like, should be to understand other people's purposes, whether it be a fish, a beaver, a human, a tree, whatever it may be, and find ways to make that mutually beneficial so that we all thrive. So that's the reflection at a high level and the lesson for the day of what I learned from Eager, the story of Beavers. So yeah, we'll turn it over to you.
Yeah. So to me, I think what you're saying, are you forcing your purpose on others? I mean, I think that is one part of it, but the other part of it is that you have to know your purpose. Right. That's, to me, it's something I keep wanting to repeat, just because we've got to the point where we take a lot of stuff for granted. We just follow whatever guide or path that was given to us, and we don't question whether this guy is valid or not. So we just take it without due diligence, meaning, am I convinced that this is good for me, or I just took it at face value, or whatever the case, or that a painter has a better life than a movie star or whatever. The thing, I can tell you anything I want, but if you keep taking what I say to you without questioning it, then you're doing yourself a disservice. So same thing with the purpose and what people do in life is, a lot of time we say, you go up, you go to school, you do good in school, you graduate, get a good job, you buy a house. So this is something that was told to you, but you never stop to question it, right? And the biggest part of having your purpose and having known your purpose is you have to find that out. And then after that is also, once you find your purpose, you live your purpose, then you understand about why you should not force your purpose on others, because other people have their own purpose as well.
Right.
And so in order for the ecosystem to be optimized, right, then you live your purpose, other people live their purpose, because you're talking about in the book, Eager, because it's the ecosystem. You're talking about the beaver is damming, it's doing its part in the ecosystem. And then the other animals, the wolf and whatever, they do their own part, because the wolf, you don't expect the wolf to go and make dams, right? It just doesn't work. Yeah, and so that's the thing is, the beaver found their purpose, right? And they live their purpose. This is great. Right. But imagine if the beaver enforces the wolf or the deer, what happens to the ecosystem? Yeah, exactly. So same thing with human. It's, you have to live your purpose and you do your part in an ecosystem and let other people live their purpose as well. But like I said, the first part is you got to find your purpose. You got to know what you do. And then second is you got to do what you do and then help others do theirs. Not like forcing your purpose on the head, Mr. Wolf, come and make my dams for me. No, that's my job. I'll do the damming. You do the, the woofing, whatever it is you do, right? The wolfing, yeah. And so to me, I think, this is the way nature works. I'm a big believer in a beaver must dam, because I keep saying, a painter must paint, a writer must write, because I truly believe that our genetic makeup make us who we are. Okay? Because we are uniquely a combinations of certain molecules, whatever. It makes us a unique person, unique entity, a unique organism. And that unique organism has a need, is compelled to do certain things, because that's what's missing. Because without having that missing piece, you're always going to be chasing for, you always want to do that, because that's going to make you feel complete. For whatever reason, that's the way it works. Right. And that's how human nature works. So if you are a beaver and you try to live in a desert, your life's going to be miserable. So, I mean, you're going to have to do something anyway. Might as well do the things that is made for you, or was the missing piece for patterns and makeup of your DNA or your genes or whatever that is. Right. And so that's the thing is, when you have the gene that needs to do something, but also has a gene to kind of give you the ability to do that, because you're talking about a beaver has, the ability to swim and to coat itself and whatever the case may be, they have all the advantages to do that particular purpose, particular job. So it's a win-win, because it feels complete. It's looking for that missing thing it needs to do. It also has the characteristic that is advantages over the other animals. Right. So you take the analogy of the beaver to the human society, it's going to give you a better perspective, better view of it, just because, it's hard to see these intangibles. We can do a lot of things, Yes, but that doesn't mean you should,
Right.
right? For animals, it's easy because they only have, a certain things they can do. The other thing is either, it's a a hell yes or a hell no. Human is so adaptable that it's hard to find that.
Anything. I mean, you can like the thought that I keep having the whole entire time is, we've talked about this before with the book about fungi back in the day. God, what was that called? The Entangled Life. Yeah. So the
Yes.
book, The Entangled Life, where we talked about, we're the composers. That's our overarching, if beavers must dam, humans must create. But what you can create is endless. You can
Right.
create whatever your heart's desire. So that's where the purpose is unique for humans, in my personal opinion, where it can be
Right.
individualized. I don't know that every individual beaver has like their own damming, methodology or whatever, or like function or role.
Right. It's not so black and white for us.
Right.
Because we have the adaptability of the gene, right? We can adapt. We can learn, right? And that's one of our strengths. But it's also becomes a weakness because you can say, well, I can learn how to do this. I can learn how to make it. I can force myself to be this person or do that person. But at the same time, because of that, you say, well, it works. So that means I must be made for this. When you don't have a clear cut answer, it's hard to choose, hey, is this what makes me whole, make me complete?
Right.
Because if you have energy, right? If you have energy, like you're very healthy and you're very energetic, what do you have to do? You sit in bed and you do nothing, right?
You gotta do something.
You're gonna have to do something. You're compelled to go do physical stuff. You're compelled to go punch a tree or whatever. You have the energy to burn. You will have to burn it. You cannot keep it, right? And then if you have
you can keep it, but it'll destroy you.
But think about it. You'll be suffering. Have you ever trying to find a way to keep your toddler or even a teenager or a child from sitting in one place? You can't.
Right. Well, you can try, but it's gonna be
no.
It's gonna be a whole lot of pain for everybody involved.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, not without trying to trick it or trying to force it in any way. They have energy. They will need to burn it.
Right.
They will jump off the wall. That's what people say. Kids will jump off the wall. Right? They bounce off the wall just because that's the saying. And so, like I say, depending on the genetic makeup of your body, there is certain thing that needs to happen because you have it or don't have it. To me, that's how nature works. Everyone has a unique genetic makeup. It makes you who you are. That means that you have a genetic need to do something. If you find that something, it's going to be, you can have the advantages of the characteristics and ability to do that thing, but it's also make you feel, to me, it's like fulfilling, a complete, or I mean, you're happy to do it.
Yeah,
right?
Happy. You just
you find joy. You find joy in doing it. You
Right.
find joy in doing it. That's what I'm saying. It's because the problem I have is a lot of times, like all these words that I'm trying to come up with, it's being bastardized so much that it become a cliches of something. Oh, you find happiness, or the thing is, I don't know what the word is, but I'm going to find the thing that's closest to what I'm trying to say. Just like, I keep saying, a painter must paint and a writer must write. At first, you don't know what I'm talking about and say, okay, yeah. But then until you start to read some of these books, like this Beaver book, right? Then you understand a little bit more what I'm trying to say, right? The thought and the concept, it needs to be reflected upon for you to gain a high level of understanding. So it's something with a lot of these words, like, I'm not talking about happiness. I'm talking about you are compelled to do, because if you don't, then for whatever reason, you feel a sense of suffering.
It hurts.
Because, for example, like a snow dog, right? A snow dog, if you take them to a hot, humid place like Houston, Texas, I mean, it's miserable, but it loves it when it's in the snow, because its genetic makeup is to be in a cold climate. So it can live in a hot climate, but it's miserable.
I think that just reminded me of my own dog. She's a Shetland sheepdog. She's a herder, right? Like that's what she was. That's her purpose, is to herd people. When she can't do it, when we try to lock her into a cage and tell her not to bark and tell her not to run, I mean, it hurts her. I mean, you can physically see, like it's like, why? This is what I'm supposed to do.
It's mentally painful.
Right. She doesn't understand but because everything in her being is like, I gotta herd you. I gotta get you to where you're supposed to be because I know that you're supposed to be here,
Yeah.
and that's my job,
Imagine you put a American eagle in a cage. What do you think is going to happen to him?
I mean,
He doesn't live that long.
Yeah, right. Right.
For purpose for animals, you put an environment that's not supposed to be, it doesn't last that long.
We haven't talked about Running with Sherman yet. We'll get there, but that's the whole book about Running with Sherman. Like he's the donkey that was trapped into a shed and never could run, and it killed his little hooves. He was gonna die when the donkey's hooves don't work. They can't work and they can't run. They can't walk. They die. They literally die. They can't do their job anymore.
Yeah.
They just expire. So that was how Running with Sherman. That was how they got him back to purpose. Yeah. Was let him go run and train. Give him the freedom to go do so, and give him some friends to go do it with. I mean, that's everything. Purpose is everything.
Right. You think about it. If the donkey is kind of like wasting away its life and it's dying, and then you basically revitalize him by giving him what he needs, and he lives longer, he gets healthy.
He thrives.
He thrives, exactly. Right. So you think about that in terms of yourself and humanity, right? If you're not doing what you purposely needs to do, your purpose, then in essence, you're withering away as well. But if you want to live long and fulfilling, then find a purpose. Find a purpose, you're going to be thriving just like a donkey does. Like I said, you put an American eagle in a cage, it won't live that long, right? It just doesn't. I mean, it's very short. So I think the purpose will give you longevity, will give you the, like I said, I don't know what the word is, but I want to use that word fulfilling for now. Right? Enjoying the things that you do for it. And to me, that's what I meant by fulfilling and complete. And so a purpose is really something very vital to our way of life. And so don't neglect that, because if you think about it, we spend so much time in our human years doing things we don't give a second thought about. This is the way we're told, and this is the way we do it. We don't take the time. How much time before we start this organization's company that we stop to think about things we need to do and things we should be doing and things we do that's important to us? How many times have we done that?
Before?
Mm-hmm.
There's probably been a couple times in my life.
A couple times.
But not for like
that is
like,
not even that's not even, close to being what it should be, right?
No.
It should be like you should think
about
all
this should
the
be
time.
higher education. This should be college. This should be higher education. This should be finding your purpose. That's the most important thing to all of us. What you said a few minutes ago is so important, but from what purpose can give you, right? As a human being, it can give you that fulfillment, that joy, all those things you're talking about. But what the really cool thing that I think about purpose is what it can give to everybody else, right? Like when the Beaver does their thing, other people can help. Right. It lifts everybody up. When the other things do their thing, because the Beaver does their thing, that lifts everybody up even more. And then everybody lifts each other up. It's this upward spiral of everybody finding their personal joy and fulfillment, but then collective joy and fulfillment, ecosystem joy and fulfillment, and then whatever else comes after that. But it's like when you don't do those things, the ecosystem dies. When you take the book talks a lot about like the beaver pelts were very valued for a really long period of time because they're waterproof, right? So Europe would, these European settlers and things like that, they would hunt beaver all day long, and then they would ship them back over to Europe for, so they could have
accessories.
Pelts. I mean, so they could have waterproof coats in the London rain, I guess. Remove these beavers from these ecosystems just died. I mean, it didn't happen overnight, but slowly but surely you see 100 years later, and now you see like California and what they're going through every single year with these droughts and these wildfires. These beavers played a vital role into those ecosystems, and when you eliminated them, like you completely did a lot of damage, but you don't see it initially, right? Like when you take away somebody's purpose, like you don't see that damage initially, and you don't even see the ecosystem's damage initially, but slowly but surely over time, you'll see it. It'll eat away at you. It'll kill you, and it'll erode the entire ecosystem that was built around.
Just a trickle effect. Right. It's not obviously visible to the human eyes who are thinking short term.
Right.
And so, a lot of times, you don't see it until it's too late. By the time you see it, well, it's really not much you can do now. But the impact of the thing that you do, if you do your job correctly, I mean, it make a huge difference. in terms of the domino effect, it happens down the line. And you're talking about like 30, 100 levels down. That's a huge impact you make. Like we're talking about the butterfly effect, right? A butterfly, kind of like flap with wings in India or whatever, create monsoon in the other half of the world, just because tiny effect accumulates,
right,
become big effect. And I think that's something that would be much more perceptive of it once you understand the first phase, which is understand yourself, understand your purpose, and then you will be able to see that your purpose actually create a huge impact on the rest of the things that you are connected to.
Exactly. And that's really the central thought of Clubany. Like that is our beautiful question, I guess, if you will, is what if you could create an environment where people could all be themselves and live their purpose, and what would come of that? How could you help each other? How would you build each other up? And that's really what we're trying to do at the end of the day, is to give people an opportunity, if they don't already have a purpose, to discover that, to figure out what's important to them, and to live that life, and then discover their purpose. But then B, if they do already have that purpose, then give them an opportunity to go just do it, and do the things that gives them joy. And then the reverberation, from that of how it overlaps and interacts with the other people within that ecosystem, like we'll figure that out as it goes. That'll be spontaneous. We won't understand it. Like we'll never understand how something develops or what comes of Chris and True living their purpose every single day, and the karma, I guess, if you will, and the actions in that ecosystem of how it impacts other people. But it'll impact them, and we'll all figure out a great way to do this stuff together, and it'll be really magical and special. And it's with these ideas in mind. You were starting to touch on this a little bit. The reason why the title says is, everyone has a purpose. Let people live their purpose. When I work at a company, I have to go check my purpose and my values at the door. Like I'm being told, don't live your purpose. It's and like. This is the problem. We feel like maybe there's for some weird reason, maybe it's because humans do have that extra level of rationality or consciousness or whatever that other animals don't have, or something along those lines. For whatever reason, we feel like, my purpose is better than your purpose. And like, I'm going to say, you know what, True, like you need to live my purpose. You need to live for two, for Amelia. You know what I mean? Like you need to do what I'm doing. No, that's not what you need to do. You need to do what you need to do. A painter must paint, a beaver must dam. Everybody needs to do their own thing and do it together, but don't impede each other. But also at the same time, like, don't force, let people do themselves, let people be themselves, but in a shared environment, like that's the key to it all, right? Like, I mean, that's
let a butterfly dam.
Right.
Butterfly, you must dam.
I love
I don't even know how to begin.
I agree. Well, I know how humans did it. We just enslaved other humans and we said, hey, you're gonna do this. Like, this is your purpose. Your purpose is to go build the pyramids. Your purpose is to go pick cotton or whatever the hell it may be. And that's wrong.
You enslave them, physically and mentally. And that's that. I mean, it's modern slavery now. It's just you enslave people mentally.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, like that will never work. It will never work. Like slavery doesn't work. Like, trapping people in companies and jobs that strip their purpose and their values, it doesn't work. It'll never work. That purpose will never go away. A painter must paint. Like, it's never going to leave. What I need to do and express in this world is never going to change. And unless I find this magical world of a company that already, exists, that happens to align exactly to what my purpose is, then I'm sure that exists out there for some people. But for 99.9% of everybody, you either go create your own company and then you tell everybody else what their purpose is in that world, by you living your purpose, or you just check it at the door. And that's not right. We can do better. And that's what we're going to try to do.
Yeah. I mean, I think it can be a whole lot better because you look at the impact of the domino effect and trickle effect that we're talking about. It's going to be a huge difference. Massive. So, I mean, I think it deserves a shot. Yeah.
I mean, we're going to do this, man. A beaver must dam. So if you ever hear us say a beaver must dam, a painter must paint, you know what we mean now.
Yes.
Let people live their damn purpose, and
yes.
Get out of the way. And not just get out of the way, but figure out how you can benefit from their living their purpose while you live your own purpose.
Right.
It all is good, So the question, if you're listening, are you first in your purpose on others or helping them to amplify their own purpose? That's something to think about. And
and another question is, do you know your purpose?
Right. Thanks for listening in, and we look forward
to see you next time.
Conversation tomorrow.
All right.